Hello, church family. If you're a guest with us today, we want to take the next couple of minutes to share with you some of the ways you can get connected and involved in our church. One of the best ways is to join a life group. There's a complete list of our life groups on our website, and they meet here in the building and in and around the Lansing area throughout the week. Pick up a brochure at guest services for more details. If you're a parent, your child will love Journey Kids, our children's gathering for birth to 6th graders, and your child can be a part of it during Sunday morning services. And we also have a nursery available for nursing mothers and a nursing mothers room. First Wednesday is a gathering where we go deeper in worship, deeper in prayer, praying together to build God's kingdom, and deeper in teaching. We propose to take people into their passion and purpose. We have a communion every first Wednesday and an awesome gathering for all ages for kids and students. It takes place on the first Wednesday of every month. If you're a student in 7th and 8th grade or in high school, we have real-life student ministries every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. at our Mason campus, 1288 Cedar Street, Mason. Go there for games, food, friends, exciting music, teaching, and small groups. That is the place to be. If you're newer to Journey, come to our welcome party on the fourth Sunday of the month. You'll get to know the church better, the staff, and have food and fun too. If you haven't been to the welcome party yet, this is your next step. Once again, thank you so much for joining us for our Sunday gatherings. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to talk to a pastor or someone from our connections team or guest services. You can also go to our website for giving, live streaming, and you can sign up for my weekly email for some spiritual encouragement. Our gathering is about ready to start, and so if you're in the cafe, please make your way in. If at any point you have any questions about anything going on here at Journey Life Church, don't hesitate to talk to a pastor or a connections team member or guest services. Now, if you're a parent and your child gets restless during the gathering, we have a nursing mother's room in the back on your left where you can go and you won't miss any part of the gathering. Better yet, we have an incredible children's ministry where your kids can enjoy age-appropriate gathering created just for them. So as a parent, you can rest assured that your little one is having fun while you're in the main auditorium. It is our hope that from the moment you arrive in our parking lot to the Spirit-led moments at the response time, that you experience God every moment and that you live life different because of Him. We believe in a culture of honor, and we define that by celebrating what God is doing in people. So this week, take time to honor those involved in your life. God bless and enjoy the gathering.
Welcome to Journey Life Church. We believe that God is with us when we worship. He's here in this room right now. He's at home with you who are online. And let's get up and worship our God because He's mighty. Here we go. Not gonna wait for the walls to fall. 'Cause I know a name that can bring them
down. I've got a praise waking within my soul. I'm not ashamed to declare it now. Come on, shout it out! Light of the world, trample the darkness. Nothing can stop it. You are the God of the promise. Every word will be accomplished. Nothing can stop it. You are the God of the promise. Prepare the way, the King of glory comes. Before his name, every fear must bow. Come on, break it! Break off your chains. Jesus, destroy them all. The grave, he is with us now. Light of the world, trample the darkness. Nothing can stop it. You are the God of the promise. Every word will be accomplished. Nothing can stop it. You are the God of the promise. God's promises are true, amen? Come on, let's think about those times in our past. Those times when God came through, we cannot forget. The scriptures, the Old Testaments are all stories of God making his promises true, making good on what he said, and he has and he will. He's the God of the promises in the past, the present, and the future. So there's no place for fear, right? No place for anxiety, right? All right, whether you feel that really or you just know that in your head, let's sing this and bring it down today. The gates of hell will never stand a chance. Your name prevails, Jesus the great I am. No word will fail, no weapon formed against your name prevails, Jesus the great I am. The gates of hell never stand a chance. Your name prevails, Jesus the great I am. No word will fail, no weapon formed against your name prevails, Jesus the great I am. The gates of hell never stand a chance. Your name prevails, Jesus
evidence of God in their lives. We're about to move into a space where we can celebrate God and who He is, and that His promises are forever. Our God never fails. He never lets us down. Join in me as we celebrate that this morning. You're never gonna let me down. 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 Oh, you're never gonna let me down. 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 Oh, you're never gonna let me down. 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 See the cross, the empty grave, the evidence is endless. All my sins rolled away because of you, oh Jesus. See the cross, the empty grave, the evidence is endless. All my sins rolled away because of you, oh Jesus. See the cross, the empty grave, the evidence is endless. All my sins rolled away because of you, oh Jesus. See the cross, the empty grave, the evidence is endless. All my sins rolled away because of you, oh Jesus. You're never gonna let me down. 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 cover my life. so hard to see it. Took me so long to believe it. That you would choose someone like me to carry your victory. Perfection could never earn it. You give what we don't deserve it. You take the broken piece heavenly place undefeated with the one who has conquered it all. Jesus, we just thank you for who you are. We thank you that you overcame everything for us so that we could sit at your feet, so that we could worship you in this place. We love you so much, God. Welcome again to Journey Life Church. You may be seated.
Director here at Journey Life Church. We are so glad that you're here today. If you're a first-time guest with us today, we would love to get connected with you. One way we can get connected is by texting WELCOME to 517-618-9287. Another way that you can get connected is by joining our Journey Life Church Facebook group. It's a great way to connect with others and to also pray for others. If you're new here in person with us, you can go ahead and head back to the Welcome Center after the gathering, and we have a gift for you. If you have a prayer request, you can go ahead and go to journeylifechurch.com, scroll to the bottom, and fill out the form. Or if you have a win you'd like to share, you can do the same. Another thing that you can do is comment if you're online in the video for a prayer, and we will pray for you on the spot. To join us in person, we are asking that you please pre-register online at journeylifechurch.com. Real Life Summer Retreat is coming up this August 7th and 8th. You can find out more information on that and for your student in the back at the Welcome Center. There's a date change for intercessory prayer this month. It will be on Wednesday the 22nd at 6 p.m. If you would like more info on this, you can talk to Diane Kilpatrick. Hey parents of Journey Kids, we will be celebrating our kids last Sunday in their current classroom on July 26th, and on August 2nd will be the move-up day. If your child is 3 years old, they'll be moving from tiny town into Smallville. And if they are in first grade, they'll be moving from Smallville into Big City. If they're in 7th grade, they'll be moving from Big City into Real Life, which meets Wednesdays at 7 p.m. at the Mason campus. For students who are in 6th grade, they're allowed to join Real Life for the first Wednesday of every month. Our Unhindered series is coming up August 9th. Everyone has a set of chains, from you or what someone else is putting on you. We believe there is a way to break every chain. What if you could live life unhindered? What if you could worship God unhindered? This message series will show you an unhindered life through worshiping God. Welcome again to Journey Life Church. We are so glad you're here. We hope you have an amazing experience.
Good morning, Journey Life Church. We are going to take offering now. So we just got to be able to worship and lift our voices, and now we get to lift our finances. So, all right, let's look in the scripture and see what it has to say. All right, so 1 Peter 2:6. See, I lay a stone in Zion, a chosen and precious cornerstone, and the one who trusts in him will never be put to shame. It's talking about Jesus, obviously. The entire Bible talks about Jesus. But it says you'll never be put to shame if you put your trust in him. We can trust in God in everything because he is all-powerful and he's the creator of everything. So we can trust him with our finances too. If we can trust him with our life, we can trust him with our finances. So let's go ahead and pray over our offering. But before we do that, let me tell you the 3 ways you can give. You can give in the mail, you can give online at journeylifechurch.com, and you can also give by putting money in the crates that are in the middle of the alleyways or aisleways. So let's pray over our offering real quick. Jesus, we thank you so much for dying on the cross for us, for being the cornerstone. And we are going to put our trust in you today, God, with our finances. We love you so much, and we know that in loving you, we'll never be put to shame because that was the intended purpose that we were created for. God, we thank you so much, and we love you, and we lift your name up high. In Jesus' name, amen.
Here's some easy steps and a secure way to give online at Journey Life Church. Go to journeylifechurch.com. On the home page, select Menu, then scroll down and select Give. Type in the amount you'd like to give and then select your designation. Once you have typed in the amount you want to give and selected the designation, select Next. Here you can input your payment information, then select Submit. Once you have completed your payment information and verified your payment amount, select Confirm. A receipt will be emailed to you, and lastly, select Done.
Why, hello. Hello, Journey Life Church family. I'm Pastor Ben. I am the youth pastor here at Journey. And boy, 2020 has looked a lot different, hasn't it? It's been a little difficult for I don't know if you think of this, but like March, let's just say March 11th. Did you think the world would look like it does now, right? None of us did. None of us understand. We didn't even, I don't think I've ever even heard the term, because it's kind of an oxymoron. I've never heard the term social distancing in my life, right? Because it's kind of like social, but how can you be distant at the same time? You know, how are you social and distant? I tried to come up with another name for it. I was like, I'm going to come up with a new name because it's going to be a lot better, and I couldn't figure out one. So I got nothing. But there are a lot of good social distancing seats right up front, by the way. Y'all are like, keep going back farther, but there's a whole front row here that, needs to be filled up too. So we have space. So if you're online, just know we have space, okay? We have space for you. But I don't have to tell you that it's been difficult. It's been difficult for a lot of us. So here's what I want to do. Might be kind of helpful for some of you. Maybe it'll put you in a bad place. I don't know. But we're going to do something really quite fun. If you're sitting next to somebody, all right? And if you're online, you can do this too, okay? So type in the comments. But just turn to the person next to you, and I'm going to give you 10 seconds. One of you just go first. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to rant about how difficult this has been for you, or what's been the most difficult part of this whole COVID-19 thing, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. What's been difficult? What's the hardest part? Time's up. Okay, next person. The other person now next to you. Say that, okay? The other person. Ready, go. Time's up. Time's up. Who feels a little bit better? Not very many. Who feels a little more frustrated? Maybe a couple. Okay, all right. Well, let me just clue you in. You might feel a little bit more frustrated as I go along in this talk today, but I promise that it will be helpful to you when we get to the end, and there is a point at the end. But I know that if I was to go around and listen to all of your conversations, a lot of it boils down to a word called pressure. Your world and our world has a lot of pressure right now, doesn't it? Just think of all the pressures that we have, especially since before like March, whatever time. What pressures we have now, like pressure to wear or not to wear, right? The pressure to wear a mask. I mean, we got an Amber Alert on our phone on Monday, right? If you were in, in Michigan here, I got a, Amber Alert. That's pressure. Wow. Pressure, pressure at work. A lot of you have had more pressure at work because your job completely changed. I've talked to a lot of different people, and I know that some jobs, like, they're doing something completely different than what they're hired for. Some of you have pressure because you aren't even at a job, and you're trying to figure out what your job is going to look like if you're going to have one, and what your boss is going to do. And there's pressure on students. There's pressure on students like, am I going to be able to do the extracurriculars? How am I going to do in school? What kind of, all the pressure that they have to still do well in school, but how is this going to work? And maybe you feel pressure in the form of social media, right? Probably most of us, because everybody wants to pressure you into something on social media right now. The entire world is screaming at you and pressuring you to do something, right? And if you're not doing something, you're still doing something, so then you're pressured to not do something but do something, and then do something that you're not doing something, right? I don't even know what I just said, but that's what I feel, Our world has a lot of pressure on it right now. And there's a lot of ways we could talk about this, but I'm just going to use one example that I think all of us can relate to because it's on all of our minds, because in about a month, we're going to have to the schools are trying to decide what they're doing, and schools are in a tough spot. There are people that have pressure on them, and you and I have to all recognize this too. There are people that have pressure on them that they weren't created to have that kind of pressure either. They didn't ask for this. They don't know. They're in a very tough spot. There's a lot of questions that we have. Like, how do we best serve our students while dealing with teachers and staff who are uncomfortable with returning to the classroom? Or how do we restart school safely for everyone concerned? How do we make wise decisions with imperfect information? Schools are in a tough spot. They have a lot of pressure. I heard one person describe it like this, that we're, right now, the school system, it's like they're building an airplane while still in the air. Like they're trying to rebuild or build an airplane, but we're flying this thing, Schools are happening one way or the other. How do we prioritize students and parents while navigating the school board rules and local government mandates? And how do we allow parents any input on the decision? Or do we allow that? How are politics, local or national, influencing if we're going to resume to school or when we resume for school? How are we going to deal with the new unknowns? What if it gets worse? What if we wait a little longer? What if we wait too long? Pressure, right? And parents, you and I, who's a parent in here? You've got a parent. Okay, a lot of parents in here. Parents, you and I, if we're honest and we were sitting with each other and you weren't just coming into church and putting on the smiley face, you would probably say, I'm a little frustrated too, right? You're probably sitting there like, I'm kind of frustrated. I'm a little nervous. I feel like I have a lot of questions. Questions like this. Will virtual learning be effective? Well, let's just virtual learn. I don't know. That's just not even, we all know the answer. Okay. Will my children thrive? What about their mental health? How will remote classes interfere with my schedule? How will they interfere with my student schedule? How are they going to interfere with my work schedule? When will we return to school? When will it be safe? Will it be safe? Will we have sports? For goodness sake, let's have sports, right? Come on, all these sports people. I think the MLB just started yesterday, was like the very first actual game of Major League Baseball. Who's looking out for my kids' best interest? What if they just keep delaying? What's at stake for my family? Is it this bad everywhere? I know. These are questions that we're all having. We've all talked about. And if you're like most of us, any of us in the room, the pressure, when you have pressure, the pressure then leads and feeds our fears. And sometimes it feeds the biggest and the core fears, like the fear of never measuring up. That fear of never being enough, never measuring up. And so when you feel the pressure, you start to get this fear of, what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not going to be good enough at my job? What if I can't measure up to the expectations that everybody else has around me, right? And this fear of measuring up, or never being in the group of friends you want, or now I may not have the kind of group of friends, or my friends are changing because of all of this. Or the fear of a job. Is your job going to look the same? The fear of, am I going to have a job at all? Am I going to be able to supply for my family? And your pressure starts to feed those fears. And this is what happens when you have that pressure. It feeds the fear of never having a sense of belonging that you want. Feeds those core basic fears that we all have. And many of us are familiar with these words, sometimes all too familiar with these words. And I'm going to write them up on the board. Yeah, we're going to do whiteboard time, all right? We're going to do some whiteboard time. This is going to be good. Whoop. Put a line right here, and this is the words. You know that word. Stress. And the other one we're going to talk about, anxiety. We know those words all too well. Sometimes we use them as kind of a, joke, not really jokingly, but we use them kind of like a pat kind of answer. I'm stressed out about what movie to watch, or I've got anxiety about what clothes to wear, or what to put on. And those are not the kind of things that we're really talking about, or we're going to dive into today. We're going to dive into the true meaning of these, and then we're going to offer you some hope. And I promise you we're going to get there. So hang with me, all right? But Here's according to the leading research, health research right now, as of, I want to say July 2nd when I looked at this, many more people with and about anxiety, many more people with and without anxiety disorders are feeling more anxious right now. So, whether you have an anxiety disorder right now or not, many more people are feeling anxious and stressed out right now in July of 2020 than ever before, because they did a survey that 1 in 3 people said they felt lonely, and this is up from 1 in 5 people who felt lonely pre-COVID-19. And they say, according to the latest research, 49% of people are struggling with anxiety right now in July of 2020, up from pre-COVID-19, 37% of people that felt anxious before COVID-19. So here's what at least I know. I know that at least half of you in this room, if not more, based on this research, are feeling or have felt anxious in the last couple months. So at least I'm talking to half of you, At least I know that for sure. And so even if I'm not speaking to you right now, this can be helpful for you later when you do inevitably have feelings of stress and anxiety again. According to the National Institute of Health, nearly 1 in 3 of all adolescents ages 13 to 18 will experience an anxiety disorder. This isn't just feeling anxious, but we're talking about teenagers between 13 and 18. 1 in 3 will have a anxiety disorder. These numbers have been steadily rising from 2007 to 2012. And anxiety disorders in children and teens are up 20%. And then they're estimating from 2012, they do this about every 8 to 10 years, this kind of research, they're estimating it going up at least another 20%. And you want to know, this is just really interesting, you want to know the 2 major platforms, actually the 3, that came out between 2006 and 2012. Number 1, Facebook hit the scene in 2006. Instagram hit the scene in 2010. And YouTube was all in there, okay? But when you feel stress and anxiety, you feel stress and anxiety when you're trying to sleep at night, right? Trying to remind us that we feel these things. And here's why I think it's important for us to understand the stress and anxiety. I think it's important because for God to do what only He can do, we have to start with where we're at. We have to understand and acknowledge where we are. Because I'm not an expert like Dr. J over here with all of his degrees, and I know he's did a lot of studying on healings in the Bible, but according to what I remember, Jesus never healed somebody who didn't know they needed to be healed. Right? Did he rub mud in the ground and spit on someone's face? And then the blind guy was like, I didn't even know I was blind. Jesus, thanks, man. It was awesome. Or did he walk by the lame person and was like, you don't even know you're lame, but you're going to be healed anyway, right? No, they all knew, hey, Jesus, I want to be healed for blah, 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 XYZ, right? So we have to acknowledge where we are. And that is really important for us to understand when it comes to stress and anxiety. When you're talking to your coworkers about another shutdown or a job switch or a job situation. When you're students, when you sit down to do that test that you forgot about, Stress. Stress. Or, adults, if you're at a job and you're being asked to do something and you're I completely forgot about that. I've got to go to my boss and report on that. Oh, goodness, right? What do you feel? A little stress, a little anxiety. When you talk to other parents about what's going to happen to the schools in the fall, stress, anxiety. When you're arguing about the same thing with your spouse again, and you're I thought we just talked about this. I just argued about this. Why are we arguing about it again? Stress, anxiety. Now, according to the pediatric website, healthychildren.org, there's a number of factors that can be contributed to such a dramatic rise of anxiety in our kids. This is truth, not just genetics or chemistry or personality. All of those, yes, have something to do with it, but that they cited 3 main areas on why we see such a rise in stress and anxiety just in our adolescence. And when I looked at this list, I thought, this is where you and I, as adults, this is the exact same list that I think you and I have, and it applies to us. Number one, you take into consideration the rising levels of stress and anxiety because of high expectations and pressure to succeed. I think we all have that. We have that in our jobs. We have that everywhere we go. But between standardized testing and a culture of achievement, and culture of achievement and a culture of improvement is important. And we believe that here at Journey. We're always trying to improve. We're always trying to get better. How can we, make a different change, another tweak, and all that? A culture of improvement is important. But when you have such high expectations and pressure to succeed, sometimes that culture of improvement causes something inside of us, right? It causes us stress and anxiety because they're expectations that we can't live up to. And this is something that I know I've felt. I'm always like, how can we do this better? How can we do this better? Instead of being content with, hey, it was good. It was great. It was fine. A survey done by a higher education research said incoming freshmen or asked incoming college freshmen if they feel overwhelmed by all that they have to do. And in 2016, 41% of students said yes, that they are overwhelmed with all they have to do. Now, that's up from 28% in 2000 when they did this survey, and only 18% in 1985. So it's gone the overwhelming, this feeling of achievement and success, being overwhelmed by that by college freshmen has gone from 18 to 41%. Now, the second thing that we have to keep in mind, according to this website, a world that feels scary and threatening. For real, people. And this was talking about school shootings and the fact that you and I didn't have to do drills for school shooting when we were growing up in school. We didn't have to do lockdown drills, that kind of stuff. We weren't doing that kind of stuff. At least I wasn't. But now we're looking at a world that looks scary and threatening, aren't we? And we look at this, why are we so stressed out and anxious? Because the world feels scary and threatening. We just watch the news or look on social media, and you got another person threatening, another person sharing a scary this or a scary that, and oh my goodness, ah! And the third thing is social media. I'm not trying to rail on social media whatsoever, but this is according to the healthychildren.org on why there's such a dramatic rise in anxiety in our kids because of social media. Because teens and young adults are constantly connected to social media. They spend, on average, between 8 to 10 hours in front of a screen every single day. That is fact. It's not surprising that their self-esteem is low when they're looking at social media and they're comparing themselves to all the other people, and they're comparing their worst day with everyone's best day. And that's what we all do, isn't it? We compare our worst day with everyone's best day on social media, All the posts. It's hard for us not to compare. And there are also some children who have unexpected and disproportionate reactions to normal developmental experiences, like going to school, going to a party, going to a sleepover, going to camp, and they worry excessively. The crazy thing is, we experience it, you and I do, in so many areas of our lives that we don't even often notice it. Right? We experience this stress, this anxiety, and we wonder, is this just normal? Am I supposed to just feel this way? Is everybody feeling this way? I think everybody must be, right? We have these questions. Is it an overload, or is this just the right amount? Do I need help? Am I supposed to get help, or am I just blowing this thing out of proportion? And we ask these questions. Do I need to just get over it? Don't say those words, by the way, especially to your spouse. We've had these conversations. You and I sometimes just don't know what to say, and I'm just like, I just want to get past this and move through this. And us guys, sometimes we're just like, we want to just get through this and get on the other side of this. So what do we say? Just get over it. That is bad. Those are like cuss words in our house, okay? And it's not good to say that to someone who's anxious or someone who's stressed out or whatever, right? It's not helpful. I still fall into it. Sometimes I still want to say it. Sometimes I do still say it. Does it ever help? No, never. My wife's over there shaking her head. No, doesn't help. See, when a car is close to running out of gas, I think about this. When a car is close to running out of gas, it has the low fuel light, right? You know that you're getting low, and then sometimes it's even dinging at you. Ding, ding, your low fuel light is on. And you might think you know better than the car, and you're like, I'm just going to ride this out a little bit farther. I know that's happened when I was on vacation. I know my mom's here this morning. She talked about that when my dad thought that he could just get to the next town when we were in the mountains, and he didn't make it, because he thought he could make it. And then he's over there hitchhiking, trying to get somewhere to a gas station. But we have this warning light that says, hey, bro, you're running low on gas. You better fill up. What are the warning signs, though, when it comes to anxiety? How do we know that we're in the danger zone? How do we know that the light is blinking? Sometimes the light is like flashing and blaring at us, and we're just like ignoring it. We're ignoring the warning sign. Well, unfortunately, it's not as simple as just going to the gas station and filling up your car. And it's like, all right, boom, I'm ready to go. It's a little bit different with you and I, right? We've got feelings, we've got other things, all these emotions, everything going on around us. Every person is different, so it's not always easy to recognize the warning signs of anxiety. It's not. It's not always easy to recognize these, but there are some symptoms, and I'm going to let you in on some. When you identify them, it's a red flag. It's that warning light in your car going off, like the pressure in your chest when it's so heavy that you feel like you can't breathe. A lot of times you get that pressure, and you're like, I can't breathe. I don't know what's going on. People have they call them panic attacks. I think there's probably a more PC term for that now, but or maybe it's at nighttime. Your warning sign is when you're going to sleep, you're trying to fall asleep, but you still got the wheel turning in your brain. You can't fall asleep because your mind keeps running. Your mind keeps running. You keep thinking about everything else, and you can't rest. Or when you go on vacation and you're trying to rest, you're trying to get relaxed, but you just can't relax. These are warning signs. Or those knots in your stomach when you feel like you can't focus on anything else. I love puzzles. We just bought a puzzle because, again, another puzzle. I like to do puzzles. And one reason why I like to do puzzles is because I can block out everything that's around me, and I'm just focusing in on one thing. I'm just focusing in on the puzzle, just trying to find one thing, put it on, it's great. I love puzzles. But sometimes you can't sit down. Why can't you sit down to do a puzzle, or sit down to play a game with your kids, or sit down to hang out and have a conversation because you're so stressed out? You can't focus in on one thing. That's a warning sign of anxiety. Or when you feel on edge, or you have sudden changes in irritability. I'm laughing because most of the time I don't know my own warning signs for anxiety. That's my wife is there to remind me, okay, and tell me, you're getting irritable, Ben. Or sometimes it's like a couple days, and she's like, you're stressed out. And I'm like, I'm not stressed out. You look like you're a little less. I'm fine. I'm fine. But she can tell when I have these sudden changes in irritability, right? And you can tell, and the people around you, when they have these sudden changes of irritability, something is going on. That's a warning sign. And those of us who don't like to admit it, we need to hear it from you guys, maybe 5 or 6 or 20 times, okay, before it sinks in a little bit. But what do we do then? What's normal? What's not? What's not normal? And most importantly, are you supposed to avoid these feelings or lean into them? What do we do? Is this the way that life is just supposed to be? That we're just supposed to live this way? The thing about stress and anxiety is that there are some answers. There are. And the thing is, it can be different for every single one of you. Sometimes it's going for a walk. How many walks did we go through during this COVID-19, right? How many walks did we go on? How many drives did we and our family go on? We just we got to get in the car. We got some people in our family, they are just stressing out. We got to get in the car. We're just driving. I don't care where. There are things that we can do. Breathe. Now that's going to be different though for every single person. What we're going to talk about today is what I feel all of us can do, and all of us as a body of believers can do. But to start, we're going to do our little whiteboard session. All right, this is participatory. So I'm actually gonna tell you to yell at me and yell things to me so that I can hear them and I can write them on the board in my little chicken scratch, okay? So we're gonna talk about the difference between stress and anxiety. And I'm gonna ask you to yell at me some characteristics and examples of stress and anxiety, but let me differentiate it for you first. Stress is specific. We're gonna talk about stress first. Stress is specific. It's a reaction to an actual situation. All right, like the pressure you feel over an upcoming project at work, or a big game that you have that you're going to be in, or an event with your family. Like we were going to leave on a trip with my family, and I was cutting vegetables, and I was cutting some carrots, and I sliced my finger open, That causes a little stress in your life, right? Or when you're packing for a trip, that's very specific. So when the specific thing we're stressed out about passes, the stress usually goes away. So that's the difference. That's what stress is. So let's talk about, and why don't you shout out to me some things that would be specific, actual situations, examples, or characteristics of stress. Somewhere on time. On time. An illness. Hold on, what? Talking. For real.
Being up past your bedtime, depending on who you are.
Wait, what did you say? Nothing. Oh, nothing. Someone else said something over. I didn't know if I caught it. What? Whiteboard. Job change. Yeah, that's specific. Going to bed. What?
A long list of tasks.
Tasks. Oh, man. Hollis, if you didn't hear that online, he said living with Susan, okay? You're not supposed to say that about your spouse. Let me see if anybody is saying anything online. I'll see if any. All right, so we have specific things with stress. Now let's talk about anxiety. Anxiety, though, is not specific to one thing. It's more of a reaction to your world or the world as a whole. All right? It's a general feeling of unease or fear that doesn't go away even when the stressful circumstance or the characteristic goes away. This is the difference. When you have an uncertainty of the future, that's not specific. When you have, how are you going to supply for your family, right? That's not the job change or the task. So anxiety is something you feel all the time about all things. It's something that affects all the things in your life. Being cooped up in the house, blah, blah, blah. So anxiety, what are some characteristics and some things, what would we say as examples of? Intense fear, yeah. Yeah. Change, yeah. You said healthcare what? Oh, co-parenting, sorry. Co-parenting. What? Well, and that might be more, that can be kind of both. That might be more, it could be a job loss when that's a specific thing, but then job loss with, I would say, uncertainty. That's not how you spell that. Leaving the house. Health. All right, what else are last couple? What? Tithing? Well, that might be also about supply. The stressor might be tithing, but the anxiety might be, am I going to have enough? Will I have enough? The supply. So we have this list, and it's going to look different for all of us. This looks completely different than first gathering. Because contrary to what you think, both stress and anxiety can actually be a good thing. And we always talk about them in such a negative way, but stress and anxiety can be a good thing. Stress helps us accomplish what we need to accomplish. Sometimes when you have that deadline and your boss says you've got a deadline or you've got to accomplish this thing, you've got to accomplish that thing, right? You've got stress, or you sit down, you have that test. That test is going to cause you stress if you're a student, but you've got to do it, and that is a good thing. Or an athlete stresses their body continuously. Like they are always stressing out their body. Why? So that they can achieve a higher goal, so that they can get to where they never thought they could be. So that is not necessarily a bad thing. Anxiety also comes from the same fear. It's that fear part of our brain that puts us on high alert. And it's that high alert that, who's ever been to the Grand Canyon? Okay, all right. So, or you've ever been to a high up place like Niagara Falls, or you go to a cliff, right? There is something that you feel, even if I'm not afraid of heights, but there's something that you feel when you go up either to the Grand Canyon or you're at Niagara Falls and you're on that bridge and you're looking over. You have a feeling inside of you, that fear, and that's an anxiety that you don't want to fall, right? You're looking over and you're like, your body is saying, don't take another step, That's not a good idea. So that same part of our brain that has us on high alert when danger is approaching, we need that part of our brain. We need that part of our feelings. All right, but anxiety becomes a problem when it sticks around for too long and it's no longer helpful. This is what we've noticed. This is what we've noticed in our house with family members that have this. When there's no danger that we need to pay attention to, but our mind and body act like there is, we're constantly creating new situations in our head to fear and be anxious about. This is what happens. And then that's not the way our body and our mind was meant to work. And when we have this constant anxiety and pressure on us, it creates a stress hormone that's pumped through our entire body that keeps us on high alert. And that's what the stress hormone, if you've ever wondered, why am I not accomplishing very much, but I'm feeling a lot more tired? Why am I anxious? I don't feel like I'm doing a lot, but I'm just a lot more tired. That's actually your body on high alert, and it's making you more exhausted. It's making you more tired. This is how it's happening. So if you're during this time, sometimes during this like COVID time, you wake up and you're like, I just don't want to do anything. I am just tired. I can't accomplish anything. That is anxiety. That's what that is. So let's call that out. At that point, anxiety isn't helpful for pointing out danger anymore. It's not like the anxiety of if you could walk off a cliff. At that point, it's not helpful for pointing out danger. It's hurting you. It's keeping you from functioning a normal life. And this is what we want to address. This is what I felt like God wanted to address this morning. So the question is, what do you do about it? If you feel anxious almost all the time, what are my options? Well, there's a lot. You can go for a walk, go for a nap, lay off the energy drinks, for goodness sake. You know what I'm saying? Practice some breathing exercise, but it might look different. But we're going to talk about a few things, something that we can all do, because this isn't a teenage problem. This is a human problem. This is a worldwide problem that we have. So even though it feels intensely personal, and it makes you feel like no one else gets you and understands what you're experiencing, you can rest assured you're not the only one. If you look around this room, you understand that at least half the people in this room are feeling the same way you are. So let's look at the book of Psalms, because Psalms is peppered with, it's like a journal from David. It's peppered with it has so many examples of David being anxious, of David feeling on edge, okay? And he had stressful situations that he was in. And the situation we're going to read in Psalm 56 is when David has been captured by the people of Gath. Now, you have to remember, David killed who? He killed Goliath, and Goliath was from Gath, okay? And now he's captured by the same people who he earlier killed their big giant, their hero, all right? So they're not a happy people with David. Plus, David's running from Saul, all right? So he's got Saul who wants to kill him. He's got all the people from Gath who want to kill him, and he doesn't know if he's going to live to see another day. And he's talking about this to God, all right? So this is the situation. I would say he's pretty stressed out and probably feeling kind of anxious. So here he writes in Psalm 56, 1 through 2, "Be merciful to me, my God, for my enemies are in hot pursuit. All day long they press their attack. My adversaries pursue me all day long." Anybody feel like that in the last 3 months? Like, let's just be real. David's enemies are out to kill him, but here's what he does. He names the thing that's stressing him out. He names it. Because when you name it, it takes away its power. When you call it out, it starts to take away its power. One of the trickiest things about anxiety is it tries to make you feel powerless. It's part of the goal of anxiety. That's what happens with it, that you would feel powerless because your brain is telling you you're on high alert again, remember. It puts you in a general fear in your heart. David starts by getting specific. So how do you get over anxiety that doesn't tell you to be afraid of anything specific, just the world in general? You be specific. Feeling stressed, overwhelmed, anxious? Name it. Turn to your neighbor and just say, name it. Or online, write it in, name it. But David doesn't end there. When I am afraid, he says in Psalm 56 now, 3 through 4, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise. In God I trust and am not afraid. What can mere mortals do to me?" Check out what David does here. He moves the focus from what's making him afraid to the God that he trusts. This is key because his circumstances don't change, his focus does. Right? His situation doesn't shift, but his perspective does. It's all about that perspective. Tony Robbins said this, "Focus equals feeling, and feeling drives our actions. If you think life is over, you will feel that and you'll act accordingly." How many people are you reading and listening to and following on social media right now that feel like life is over and they're acting accordingly? But see, what is great about Christianity, and this is what's different than you and me, and you know what? I can't even hold some of them to the same standard if they don't have the same hope that I do. But guess what? You and I have something that they don't have. We have the hope in Jesus. Come on, someone say amen. We have the hope in Jesus. There is something different and there's something powerful because we're able to put God into the situation. Why don't these people have hope? Why are they looking at these acts and they're saying they're feeling and acting accordingly that life is over? Why? Because they haven't put Jesus, they haven't put God into this. They haven't allowed the Holy Spirit to wash over them. And this is important because the thing that causes us to feel overwhelmed is sometimes the thing we can't control. Right? Many times. It's we can't control it. A lot of the stuff on this anxiety, we can't control COVID. Let's be honest, right? For real. You and I can't control the intense fear all the time. We can't control the change. Change is going to happen. Right? We can't control it. We can't control the education of our kids right now. A lot of these things. We can't control some of the health issues. When a health issue comes on and arises, we can't control that. And what's important is when life doesn't change, the one thing we can change is what we do with and how we respond to the stress and anxiety that life brings. That's what's important for you and I. We can bring it to God. We can acknowledge what we're feeling. We can name it. We can name why it bothers us. And then we can shift our focus to something else that's a reality. We can shift our focus into God's role in that thing. And as we look at the rest of this Psalm 56, by the way, this is what Christians have been doing for thousands of years. And let me just be one to tell you that there have been crises, and this crisis will pass. There have been crises in the past. And by the way, last I looked, we're not still living in Roman times when Nero was burning Christians at the stake. But guess what? Christianity exploded in a time when people were in one of the worst feeling situations ever. One of the most stressful and anxious situations ever. So here's why. In verse 5, David says this, all day long they twist my words. Wow, this is right now, for real, right? In 2020, right? All day long they twist my words. All their schemes are for my ruin. They conspire, they lurk, they watch my steps, hoping to take my life. Anybody feel like that sometimes? Because of their wickedness, do not let them escape. In your anger, God, bring the nations down. Record my misery. List my tears on your scroll. Are they not in your record? Then my enemies, do you feel him just pouring his heart out to God? He's pouring himself out. Then my enemies will turn back when I call for help. Why? Because he poured out himself to God. He didn't pour out himself on social media. He didn't pour out himself to his coworker. He didn't pour out himself to his spouse. He's pouring out himself to God. And he says, then when I call for help by this, I will know that God is for me. In God, whose word I praise, in the Lord, whose word I praise. In God I trust and am not afraid. What can man do to me? I am under vows to you, my God. I will present my thank offerings to you. For you have delivered me from death and my feet from stumbling, that I may walk before God in the light of what? Life. So think of it this way. Here's what David did. And he does this constantly if you look at other Psalms. And this is something that you and I can do every day, all the time. This is what our prayer life can look like, especially if you're struggling with stress and anxiety. And at least half of you are, so I know that. First, when you're stressed or anxious, it can be helpful to name the what. Name the what. Like what he did, the what. And then you go to the why. But what we always seem to do is forget this and go to the who. And then it's a cycle, and we keep going. Because this is what we forget. We talk about the what, and then we talk about the why. But we have to put God into the situation. And here's what happens with parent. Let's just take an example. Parents, fighting. We're fighting, We fight. It happens, all right? But arguing, you're talking to God and you're like, God, I'm arguing with my spouse. I'm arguing all the time. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling upset. God, I feel like we're arguing all the time. We just named the what. Then you talk about the why, like, hey, God, I'm always walking on eggshells. I don't feel like my spouse is giving me the kind of love or respect that I deserve. So I'm naming the why. Not just the what, but I went into the why. Why am I feeling it? Well, the mood in our house is always tense, God. The mood is tense. This is the why. But then we have to go to the what. God, I know that even if my home feels out of control, you're still in charge. God, even if I'm still arguing, my spouse, my identity isn't wrapped up in my spouse. My identity is wrapped up in you, God. My identity is not wrapped up in my situations, the what and the why. My identity is wrapped up in you. So we have to get to the who. And I talked about this with students before, and I thought it was important for us to understand that even though things may not feel like they're changing, we know we talk to a God who never changes. He's been the beginning, he's been the same before, and he'll be the same in the future. So one more time, what did David do and what can we do when we're feeling anxious, when we're feeling stressed? And looking at Psalm 56 as the example, we name the, all right, so this is where you respond. Here we go. We name the, yeah, then you name the, and then you have to remember to change your focus to the, right? And the who is who God is in this situation. The idea is to form a habit of focusing on truth and gaining a perspective that's larger than our current one. Gaining a perspective that's larger. This will gain a perspective that's larger than our current perspective of just what we're staring at. There's tools to take on anxiety. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to call up the worship team one more time, and we're going to sing that bridge part of the song. And we're going to practice this, and you're going to practice this, and you're going to name some of those things that are stressors, that are making you feel anxious. You name it. You tell God. You're going to practice this. So you're going to have to do this loud enough so you can hear your own voice, all right? Practice this. Name the what. Go into the why. Why is that causing pain? Why is that causing you stress? Why is that giving you an anxious feeling? And then you have to put God in that. And that's what this song does so perfectly, because then we get to the chorus that says, I am who you say I am, right? That I am not this and I'm not that. I am who you say I am, God. And here's what's not going to happen, okay? Here's what won't happen in Journey Kids. This will never happen. This will never happen at Real Life for your students. This will never happen in a life group or here at Journey Life Church. This is a safe place to share things like this, because more often than not, the person you're sharing it with is feeling some of the same feelings you are. You're not going to hear things like this. Just have more faith. That's not helpful when we're talking about these situations. Faith is important, but that's not the soul. That's not what needs to happen. That's not what you need to be told. The other thing is, you're never going to hear this, wow, nobody else has felt like that. I've never heard of anyone feeling like that. And by the way, you have my permission to slap these people if they ever say these things. Just Holy Spirit, God-honoring smack them. In a life group, this is a safe place. You won't hear somebody say, hey, you have nothing to be stressed about. Come on. That's not helpful. You're not going to hear that in our kids' ministry. You're not going to hear that at Real Life. You're not going to hear that in a life group. But what's not okay is living with the anxiety that holds us back from what you really want to do in your day-to-day life, all while keeping it to yourself. So it's important to share that and get that out in a safe place. So everybody go ahead and stand to your feet. And here's what I want you to do. Think about what's giving you that anxious feeling. You knew when I started talking about it, and halfway through this message, I still wasn't even at the point yet, and you were feeling that anxiousness. You know what that is for you. So I want you to call it out. Call out that what, that why, and then put God in this situation as they begin to sing this and sing the bridge. They're gonna sing this and wash it over you, and you just call it out and you talk to God. Have your own little mini prayer session right now with God.
When I open up my
as we leave here, just be encouraged, because in Psalm 56 it says, in God, whose word I praise, in the Lord, whose word I praise, in God I trust and am not afraid. What can man do to me? I am under vows to you, God. I will present my thank offerings to you, for you have delivered me from death and my feet from stumbling, that I may walk before God in the light of life. Amen.
All right. So before you guys are dismissed, we're going to do this in an orderly fashion so that we don't cross-contaminate or whatever. But the ushers will come up and they will dismiss the back rows first. And then you guys are free to leave when your row is dismissed. Please do not leave earlier than that. Thank you. Love you guys. Love you guys online too. Have a good one. Happy Sunday.